Rabbi Ishmael, Boxwood-skinned Israelites by biblical DNA. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Who has boxwood color skin? According to the Mishnah, Negim, chapter 2, verse 1, 2, Dr. Joshua Kulp, Rabbi Ishmael says, the children of Israel, may I be atonement for them, are like boxwood, neither black nor white, but are of an intermediate shade. According to the book of Exodus, chapter 4, verse 6 through 7, Moses' hand, and Yahweh said to him again, put in, I pray thee, thy hand into thy bosom. And he putteth his hand into his bosom, and he bringeth it out, and lo, his hand is leprous as snow. Verse 7, and he saith, put back thy hand unto thy bosom. And he putteth back his hand into his bosom, and he bringeth it out from his bosom, and lo, it hath turned back as his flesh. Show evidence that it snows in Egypt, and it more than likely snowed during their time. Prejudices in the Bible. The book of Numbers, chapter 12, verse 1. The murmuring of Miriam and Aaron. Verse 1. And Miriam speaketh, Aaron also, against Moses concerning the circumstance of the Cushite woman, whom he had taken, for a Cushite woman he had taken. As speaking against Aaron, Miriam was cursed with leprosy. The location of Midian would have been in northwest Arabia. The Cushite woman was from northwest Arabia. Midian was located northwest Arabian Peninsula on the east shore of the Gulf of Aqaba on the Red Sea. William G. Dever. Prejudices in the Bible. Song of Solomon, chapter 1. The Shulamith bride. Verse 5. Dark am I, and calmly, daughters of Jerusalem, as tents of Kedar, as curtains of Solomon. Verse 6. Fear me not, because I am dark, I'm very dark, because the sun hath scorched me. The sons of my mother were angry with me. They made me the keeper of their vineyards. My vineyard, my own, I have not kept. So, in this verse, it clearly identifies that she got suntan, dark suntan. And because of that, she was telling the daughters of Jerusalem not to judge her. Shanim was a location near Jerusalem, was a village in the territory of Issachar, north of Jezreel, and south of Mount Gilboa. Other scholars link Shum with Salem, believing Solomon's bride was from Jerusalem. This is the Jerusalem Talmud, or the Talmud of Jerusalem. I've already went over this in a previous video, but just more evidence of prejudices according to skin color regarding Jews. This is from the Babylonian Talmud, the Sanhedrin. I also went over this one. And just to show that there's nothing new under the sun, that history keeps on repeating itself, Israel's Sephardi chief, Rabbi Yitzhak Yosef, quoted from the Babylonian Talmud, not every Negro is blessed. There should be a Negro whose father and mother are white. They had a monkey son. They had a son like that. Now, this rabbi, it was a big deal. He took an ambush, or he took a big criticism on this, and his reputation probably went to the crap can. All right, the concept of the Caucasian race, or so-called white person. White, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. It includes people who indicate their race as white, or report entries such as Irish, German, Italian, Lebanese, Arab, Moroccan, or Caucasian, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. As you can see, the concept of different shades of the so-called Caucasian race. To the left, Northwest Europe, East Europe, South Europe. To the right, Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, North India, India, Horn of Africa, and the Middle East. The human gene responsible for triggering tanning is response to sunlight has been found. It is a well-known tumor suppressor called p53. Tanning is activated by ultraviolet light and involves the increased production of melanin pigment and its delivery to skin cells. Olive skin. There's a big misconception that olive skin means either black or red or green. But that's not what olive skin tone means. Olive skin is a human skin color spectrum. It is often associated with the pigmentation in the type 3 to type 4 and type 5 ranges of the Fitzpatrick scale. It generally refers to light or moderate tan skin. It is often described as having yellow, green, or golden undertones. People with olive skin can sometimes become more pale if their sun exposure is limited. Lighter olive skin still tans more easily than light skin does, and generally still retains notable yellow or greenish undertones. Geographic distribution. Type 3 pigmentation is frequent among populations from the Mediterranean, i.e., Southern Europe, Western Asia, and Northern Africa, as well as some parts of Latin America and Asia. It ranges from cream to darker olive skin tones. This skin type sometimes mildly burns and tans gradually, but always tans. Type 4 pigmentation is frequent among some populations from the Mediterranean, Romani people, as well as parts of Asia and Latin America. It ranges from brownish or darker olive to moderate brown, typical Mediterranean skin tones. This skin type rarely burns and easily tans easily. Type 5 pigmentation is frequent among populations from the Middle East, parts of the Mediterranean and Southern Europe, Romani people, parts of Africa, Latin America, and the Indian subcontinent. It ranges from olive to tan, Middle Eastern skin tones. This skin type very rarely burns and tans quite easily. As we can see to the right, a baker with olive skin from Greece. Other names for suntanning can be consisted of farmer's tan, cycling tan lines, playing tennis, swimmer's tan. Esau, David, Yeshua, and Judas is said to have red hair. Red hair is also found amongst the Ashkenazi Jewish populations. In 1903, 5.6% of Polish Jews had red hair. Other studies have found that 3.69% of Jewish women overall were found to have red hair, but around 10.9% of all Jewish men have red beards. In European culture before the 20th century, red hair was often seen as stereotypically Jewish trait. During the Spanish Inquisition, all those with red hair were identified as Jewish. In Italy, red hair was associated with Italian Jews, and Judas was traditionally depicted as red hair in Italian and Spanish art. The stereotype that red hair is Jewish remains in parts of Eastern Europe and Russia. Medieval anti-Semitism. During the Spanish Inquisition, people of red hair were identified as Jewish and isolated for persecution. In medieval Italy and Spain, red hair was associated with the heretical nature of Jews and their rejection of Jesus, and thus Judas Iscariot was commonly depicted as red-haired in Italian and Spanish art. Writers from Shakespeare to Dickens would identify Jewish characters by giving them red hair, such as the villainous Jewish characters Sherlock and Fagin. The anti-Semitic association persisted into modern times in Soviet Russia. The medieval prejudice against red hair may have derived from the ancient biblical tradition in relation to biblical figures such as Esau and King David. The ancient historian Josephus would mistranslate the Hebrew Torah to describe the more positive figure of King David as golden hair, in contrast to the negative figure of Esau, even though the original Hebrew Torah implies that both King David and Esau had fiery red hair. Some individuals with known to have red hair. On to the left, you have a young depiction of Yahshua, which would be considered a graven image. In the middle, we have Rabbi Harry Rosenberg. And on to the right, we have an Orthodox Ashkenazi Jew, a young Ashkenazi Jew. Esau, David, and Solomon were described as ruddy. Genesis 25, verse 25, and the first cometh out, all red as a hairy garment, robe, and they call his name Esau. Book of 1 Samuel, chapter 16, verse 12, and he sinneth, and bringeth him in, and he is ruddy, with beauty of eyes, and of good appearance. And Yahweh saith, Rise, anoint him, for this is he. Song of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 10. My beloved is white and ruddy, conspicuous about a myriad. I also added Lamentations verse 4, or chapter 4, verses 7 through 8, because Black Hebrew Israelites and Anglo-Saxons like to use this verse to prove that the Israelites were either white or black, depending on which organization you're going to be associated with. So pure were her Nazarites than snow, whiter than milk, ruddier of the body than rubies, of sapphire their form, darker than blackness hath been their visage. They have not been known in outplaces. Cleaved hath their skin unto their bone, and hath withered, it hath been as wood. So as we can see, when they were pure, they were considered white, whiter than snow. But as they started slipping away from the practices or their natural pureness, they became black. So they went from white to black. Now, the way I interpret it, this means spiritually, but to each his own. Strong's Concordance, admony, red, ready, admony. Admoni from Adam, reddish, of the hair or complexion. Adam, to be red. Be dyed, made red ruddy, to show blood in the face, i.e., flush or turn rosy. Be dyed, made red ruddy. Song of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 12. Solomon had eyes of the pools of water, his eyes as doves by streams of water, washing in milk, sitting in fullness. So where did our green-eyed ancestors come from? Most origins point to areas around the Caucasus Mountains, which link Asia and Europe. That might help explain why so many different countries and continents have had green-eyed populations for thousands of years. Song of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 4. Solomon had eyes of pools of Heshbon. Thy neck is as a tower of ivory, thine eyes like the fish pools in Heshbon, by the gate of Batharimbim. Thy nose is as the tower of Lebanon, which looketh towards Damascus. In this picture to the left, this picture is taken in Tanzania, but it's a good representation of a fish pool and the algae greenish look. If the sky was clear and it reflected off of it, it would give the blue-green effect. In this picture, we have the supposedly Israelites in captivity making bricks out of mud to build the pyramids. As we can see, they were a light-skinned shade people. They were boxwood in shade. In the back, we see as either Nubians or some other people. These are Asiatics. This goes into the whole race classification in Egypt, how they depicted different races. As you can see, they're wearing fringes on the borders of their garments. We see that they're Asiatic looking people and they reflect boxwood skin pigment, which is a tan, either type 3 or 4. These are Chaldeans, or Chaldean, or Hebrews in Chaldea. What we can see is that they're a Caucasian-looking people. They are not black skin, as some black Hebrew Israelites try to claim. We can clearly see that these are Caucasians. These are Jews that were in Rome. As you can see, their complexion looks like boxwood. I find these pictures very interesting because, as you can see in their garments, they have a ribbon of blue. For most people that understand the concept of that, it goes back to Numbers chapter 15, verse 38, of wearing fringes and a ribbon of blue on their garments. Most talits have a line of blue in them, where you don't have to technically have the blue string in your tzitzit because it's already implanted in the garment in the talit. The third one, you can see that he's wearing tzitzit or fringes on his garment. More Hebrews. Black Hebrew Israelites try to use this to also prove that they were black people, and they clearly weren't. These are either Muslims or Jews in Europe. As you can see, their faces were dirty, probably not been able to take a shower, probably hard work, but you can see their necks are pale in complexion. Now, of course, being a Middle Eastern people originally, they would have been much tanner than people up in Europe that haven't been out in the sun. This is another picture that Black Hebrew Israelites like to use. And as you can clearly tell, they have Jewish nose and they're Caucasians. There's nothing about them that would place them under a black race. This is in Spain. As you can see, to the left of your screen, there are two individuals holding up a black man. And this black man probably would have been commonly referred to as a blackamoor. The two individuals that's holding him up are Ashkenazi Jews. And yes, for those that do not know, there were Ashkenazi Jews in Spain. '13th century Jews. As you can see, similar clothing that Ashkenazi Orthodox Jews are accustomed to wearing, all black. So their custom of wearing all black, it dates back for a long time. Jews playing chess in Europe or in Spain. As you can see, the man to the left is wearing fringes on the borders of his garments. And the man to the right, we can see is a Muslim. He's wearing a turban. So Jews and Muslims did get along in Spain. They're reading for Passover. All right. Karl Marx and Albert Einstein. Karl Marx is the co-founder of Marxism. As we can see, Marx is a Freemason. If you look at his picture, he's having his hand tucked into his jacket. This is a Freemason pose. Einstein was also a Freemason, is seen sticking out his tongue, which goes against Isaiah 57 verse 4. Against whom do ye sport yourselves? Against whom enlarge ye the mouth? Prolong ye the tongue? Are not ye children of transgression, a false seed? We don't have Marx's DNA, but we have a supposedly ancestor of Albert Einstein, and he is EM35. And his branch is said to be EM34, which is a Jewish cluster. It's a Jewish branch of the EM34. They were the indigenous people in the Middle East. Alright, these are Sephardic Jews. We have Maimonides to the top left. He's one of the most important Sephardic Jews because he came up with mysticism and all of the craziness and Kabbalah, like the Kabbalism and all of that stuff. He was involved in all that mysticism. So he's one of the well-known Sephardic Jews. These are mixed populations of Ashkenazi, Sephardic, Falasha Jews. We have Persian Jews. These were Jews that were in Iran. We have the Baccaran Jews celebrating Hanukkah. I could not find much DNA information, but the one Baccaran Jew that I found, he belonged to haplogroup JM172, which is J2, in Uzbekistan. I found an interesting quote. It's the Baccaran, Persian, Ethiopian, Iraqi, and Ashkenazi Jewish communities all have unusually small numbers of maternal ancestors. This could reflect communities founded by tiny numbers of Jewish women willing to travel with their husbands to far-off lands, or situations like the Beni Israels, where a community was founded, at least in part, by a small number of women who married Jewish men and lived as Jews. This is found in Genetics and the Jewish Identity on the Jerusalem Post. Alright, the Temeni or the Yemenite Jews. The term is also traditionally used in Biblical Hebrew as the synonym of the direction south, and was applied to being used as the Hebrew name of Yemen. Those Arabic name is Yemen, due to its location in southern end of the Arabian Peninsula, thus making Yemenite Jews being called Timamin in Hebrew. In the book of Genesis, Genesis 36:15, the name Teman is referred to as the son of Elphavaz, Esau's eldest son. Job's friend Elphavaz was a Temeni. Job, chapter 2, verse 11, or Job. Yemenite Jewish genetic diversity with evidence for minimal contributions from surrounding Yemeni Y chromosome haplogroup J1 and longer range gene flow from the Middle East, e.g. haplogroup J2E, and the HOA, e.g. haplogroup A3B3 or E3B1. Sin et al. 2004, Cadenas et al. 2008. In contrast to the maternal DNA, however, the Y data on Yemenite Jews show greater evidence of shared Jewish ancestry. In particular, four Y haplogroups A3B2, A3B3A, E3B1, and J2E are shared between Yemenite and Ethiopian Jewish populations, whereas no exact mitochondrial haplotypes are shared between these two populations. Additionally, four Yemenite Jewish Y haplogroups E3B1, E3B1B, J1, and R1B10 are also shared with other Jewish populations including Ashkenazi, Iraqi, Libyan, and Moroccan Jews, as well as Druze and Palestinians. This paternal similarity across Jewish populations is consistent with the theory that most Jewish diaspora populations share more paternal ancestry than maternal ancestry. Thomas et al. 2002. This article could be found in the Mitochondrial DNA Reveals Distinct Evolutionary Histories for Jewish Populations in Yemen and Ethiopia by Ryan Rom. We also have the mtDNA or the maternal DNA haplotypes present at 5% in Yemenite Jews include the African haplogroup L3, X1, and Eurasian haplogroups R0A, renamed from pre-HV. HV1, J2A1A, renamed from J1B, K, R2, U, and U1, And in Ethiopian Jews include African haplogroups L2A1B2 and L5A1, and Euro-Asian haplogroups R0A and M1A1. The Samaritans. Recently, several genetic studies on the Samaritan population were made using haplogroup comparisons, as well as wide genome genetics studies. Of the 12 Samaritan males used in the analysis, 83% had Y chromosomes belonging to haplogroup J, which includes 3 of the 4 Samaritan families. The Joshua Mariv family belongs to haplogroup JM267, formerly J1, while the Danafi and the Tezdacha families belong to haplogroup JM172, formerly J2, and can be further distinguished by the M67 SMP and derived allele of which has been found in the Dafai family, and the PF5169 SMP found in the Tisagdah family. However, the biggest and most important Samaritan family, the Cohen family tribe of Levi, was found to belong to haplogroup EM78, which they've tested for EV22. This article predated the change of the classification of haplogroup E3B1, EM78, and its down subclades, which they tested for EV22. According to Josephus in Antiquities chapter 11, the Samaritan high priesthood was founded by a son of the Jerusalem Zadokite high priest named Manasseh, who married the daughter of the governor of Samaria, Sanballat. This Zadokite line existed until the death of the last Samaritan Zadokite high priest, Shemaiah ben Phinehas, in 1624 CE. The high priesthood then went to the Samaritan Levites, who claimed descent from Ithamar, son of Aaron, who have decided that this lineage came from mixed multitude leaving Egypt in Exodus chapter 12, verses 38 through 40. And I will be making a video to continue this discussion on the Samaritan Kohanim. And I've talked to them directly on Facebook, and they said that they're not sure where the lineage comes from, but it more than likely came from the mixed multitude leaving Egypt. This is their DNA results. Zoroastrians. Article: Ancient migratory events in the Middle East. New clues from the Y chromosome variation of modern Iranians. Haplogroup J1M267 does not exceed 10% in the majority of the Iranian samples examined, with higher value only in Fars 11.4%, Zoroastrians from Yazid 11.7%, Gilead 12.5%, Assyrians from Azerbaijan 17.9%, and Azazin 33.4%. In particular, the recently described J2A M530 shows high frequencies in the Zoroastrians of Yazid 17.6%, Tehran 15.4%, and in the Persians of Yazid 17%. The second is present as E1B M78 * in Laristan 9.8%, and E1B V13 5.9%, and EV22 2.9%, and the Zoroastrians of Yazid, while R1A1 and R minor amongst them, according to the article Ancient Migratory Events in the Middle East. Druze. The Druze claim that their religion came from Jethro. So Jethro is the founder of their religion. The DNA studies done on the Druze so far prove their genetic diversity, with Y-DNA haplogroups J1 and J2, E1B1B, R, G, L, Q, C, T/T, or K/T, and maternal DNA haplogroups H, K, X, U, T, HV, I, J, L2, M1, N1, W, R0. As for admixture, Druze people show closeness to other Levantine, Anatolian, Sephardic, Armenian, Samaritan, Kurdish, Persian, as well as peoples of the Caucasus. This was done on the Druze Y-DNA project on Family Tree DNA. The Mandaeans. The Mandaean dialect was once spoken by the Mandaeans of Iran and southern Iraq, and is now spoken by some of the Mandaean community living in diaspora, as well as few remaining in their ancient ancestral homes of Iraq and Iran. There's claims that they are the lost tribes of Israel. The haplogroups that I found are EV13, haplogroup H, BY83539, and 2 carrying haplogroup JM172, which is haplogroup J2, and haplogroup EV22, which is of haplogroup EN35. The Arameans of Syriac or Syrian background, their haplogroup belongs to haplogroup J1 in 33.6%. Haplogroup J2 accounted for 20.8%. Other Y-DNA haplogroups include the E1B1B 12%, haplogroup I 5%, R1A 10%, and R1B 15%. The maternal haplogroups show a huge portion having different subclades of maternal DNA haplogroup H, J, and U. Consisted of mainly maternal DNA haplogroup H, H14A, H, HV4A2A. As far as their Y chromosomes, haplogroup JM304 has been measured at 55% among Assyrians of Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon and diaspora, while it has been found at 11% among Assyrians of Iran. Haplogroup TM184 reported as K* has been measured at 15.09% among Assyrians in Armenia. The haplogroup is frequent in Middle Eastern Jews, Georgians, Druze, and Somalians. According to a 2011 study by Lashkari et al., R1b reported as R* or XR1A has been measured at 40% among Assyrians in Iran, making it major haplogroup among Iranian Assyrians. Yet another DNA test compressing 48 Assyrian male subjects from Iran, the Y-DNA haplogroups JM304, found in its greatest concentration in the Arabian Peninsula, and the northern RM269 were also frequent at 29.2% each. Lashkari et al. Explained the presence of haplogroup R in Iranian Assyrians as well as in other Assyrian communities, 23%, as a consequence of mixing with Armenians and assimilation integration of different peoples carrying haplogroup R, while explained its frequency as a result of genetic drift due to a small population size and etymology due to religious barriers, so they basically only mix with their own. Haplogroup J2 has been measured at 13.4%, which is commonly found in the Fertile Crescent, the Caucasus, Anatolia, Italy, coastal Mediterranean, and the Iranian plateau. The Lebanese. In the article, Geographical Structure of the Y Chromosomal Genetic Landscape of the Levant, a Coastal Inland Contrast. From these comparisons, we found that haplogroup J2 in general and 6 YSTR haplotypes in particular exhibited a Phoenician signature that contributed greater than 6% to the modern Phoenician-influenced populations examined. We do not suggest that the Phoenicians spread only or predominantly J2 lineages. They are likely to have spread many lineages from multiple haplogroups, but the lineages we highlight are the most highly differentiated ones, providing most readily detectable signals. So primarily it was haplogroup J2. The other ones were E1B1Bs. Also, the maternal DNA of Lebanese haplogroups H, HV, T, and K are represented. This is found in the Y chromosome and maternal DNA. Genetics reveal significant contrasts and affinities of modern Middle Eastern populations with European and African populations. Palestinians. The majority of Palestinian Christians, which represent 31.82%, were a subclade of E1B1B, followed by G2A at 11.36% and J1 at 9.09%. The majority of Palestinian Muslims were haplogroup J1, 37.82%, followed by E1B1B at 19.33%, and haplogroup T at 5.88%. The study sample consisted of 44 Palestinian Christians and 119 Palestinian Muslims. This can be found in the article Y Chromosomal STRs in two populations from Israel and the Palestinian Authority area, Christian and Muslim Arabs. Also, in the origin, diffusion, and differentiation of Y chromosome haplogroups E and J. And haplogroup JM267 is found amongst Palestinian Arabs at 38.4%. Hashemites. The Hashemites belong to haplogroup J1, page 58, L147. Can be observed in other members of Hashemites clan founded by the great-grandfather of Muhammad, and also within the larger paternal Quraysh tribe. A house of Saudi. The House of Saudi is claimed to belong to a Y-DNA haplogroup J1 or J-FGC4. The Bedouins, also known as dwellers in the tent. They're also known as the nomadic tribes. The haplogroups that I found belong to haplogroup J at 65.6%, haplogroup E1B1B at 18.7%, haplogroup R1A at 9.4%, haplogroup I at 6.3%. And this is the citations for olive skin for the Wikipedia page. And this is the citations for the red hair that was found on the Wikipedia page. Which leads me to any questions. Please feel free to leave your comments down below. Thank you for listening through this video. Thank you.